30 years ago, I got a call from the leadership of the Army, and it was addressed to volunteer Pat Sheehan. And I was always proud to have been a volunteer in the Army, and it's not too often you get addressed by your full title. You know, and I thought about it later, and the only time usually you see volunteer in front of anyone's name is either in the obituary columns in the paper or on a headstone in a graveyard. But what the column was saying was that I had been selected to replace Big Doc on the hunger strike. And I mean, that in itself was a great honour for me, because I mean, Big Doc was a legend. I had been in H4 for a couple of years. Big Doc was on the other side of the block, but you'd have been at Mass with him every Sunday. And for those of you who don't know Big Doc, you know, he was well over 6 foot. He was 6'2" or 3", and he was built like an Olympic athlete. And by and large, the screws were afraid of him. I remember the time they were doing the forced washes, and what they did after lunchtime, they had been going round the cells in order, you know, 1, 2, 3, so forth and so forth and so on. But after lunch, they came back, and Big Doc went to Big Doc's cell completely out of order to surprise him, because at that time we had been fighting back, but the screws were afraid of Big Doc. And so they went to his cell, opened the door and dived in to pull him out. But that's by the by. In any event, the column went on to say, you know, I'd been selected to replace Big Doc on the hunger strike, and that if I had any second thoughts, if I wasn't sure I could go through with it, to stand aside now. Because if I did embark on this course of action, I would be dead within 2 months. And that's how stark it was. It was in black and white. You'll be dead within 2 months. And you know, it really rocked me back on my heels at that time. And to be quite honest, I wasn't 100% sure. And I know everybody who went on the hunger strike before me got this same calm from the leadership. And I was thinking, well, how did they all react? How did they know they could be 100% sure? I mean, I wasn't 100% sure because I had never been in that situation before. And if you're getting into uncharted territory, how do you know? How do you know you're going to be able to go through with it? How do you know if you end up in terrible pain that you might just say, no, I'm giving up, I can't go through with it? So, in any event, I replied, I'm 100% sure that I can see this through. I'm not going to let anybody down, and I'm certainly not going to let down the men who died before me. And as time went on in the hunger strike, psychologically, as I became weaker physically, psychologically, I became stronger. You know, and it reached the point there was absolutely no doubt in my mind that had the hunger strike continued, I would have died. But the leadership decided that the hunger strike would end, and it ended on the 3rd of October 1981. And that time I was in a critical condition. Probably at that stage I would have had about 48 hours left to live. And as luck would have it, I survived. And when the hunger strike ended, I had mixed emotions, I have to say. I was glad I was alive. I was glad I had survived. I was happy for my parents, because, I mean, they were devastated when I went on hunger strike, and they had to sit and watch me come through it. as the families and the parents of all the lads who died had to do also. And I felt in a way guilty at having survived, especially taking into account the families of the lads who had died. And how would they feel about us having ended the hunger strike, and would they be angry, and would they be disappointed, and did they feel that we had let the lads down? So, I mean, you had all of that going on, and not just my mind, but in the minds of the other lads, and even the lads who were left on protest in the blocks. And what many people now forget or don't know is that, you know, the hunger strike was a massive victory. The whole criminalisation policy, you know, which the British had been trying to impose on us, was completely blown out of the water. I mean, it was blown out of the water as early as April 1981, when Bobby was elected as MP for Fermanagh and South Tyrone. And when Bobby died, and when the rest of the lads all died, I mean, anybody on this, and what people forget is that in 1981, Bobby Sands' election was front page news around the world. It was the biggest news event on this planet at that time. And the criminalisation policy was completely blown out of the water. There was nobody with any objectivity at all on this planet who believed that Bobby Sands was a criminal, or Kieran Doherty was a criminal, or Joe McDonald was a criminal. Nobody on this planet believed that. And that was where the success was in the hunger strike. But in the prison, we didn't get our demands. We didn't get all our demands. We got our own clothes, but the prison regime and the Brits still wanted us to do prison work. They still wanted us to integrate with loyalists and criminals and stuff like that. And what's important to remember is that we didn't say, that's it, we didn't get what we want, we're throwing the towel in. What we did was we sat down and we devised a strategy of how we were going to get the rest of our demands. And the hunger strike basically had left the Brits staggered. It was like in a boxing match when you see somebody hitting somebody a dig in the head and their legs go to rubber and they're just waiting to get finished off. And that was the way the Brits were in the blocks in 1981, 82. And then a certain man who'd be nameless but happens to be the chairman of this club masterminded the Great Escape in 1983. And then it was another battle to regain control. And in the end we achieved all our demands and more. Because never at any stage did we say, that's it, we're throwing the towel in. And I was just sitting there looking around me tonight, and I know there's not a massive crowd here. I mean, I see a lot of old comrades, you know, and between us all, I'd say we're probably into the thousands of years in jail. See John Boy McComb and Tom McAllister, Joe Simpson, Joe Gibson, Shanna's down the back there, Jogie Flynn. You know, people who have dedicated their lives to this struggle. And never at any stage have any of them said, that's it, I'm throwing in the towel. In spite of what they've come through, and in spite of what we've all come through. And people, you know, the further away we get from it, we tend to forget, you know, just how bad it was. And in my last job in Coista, I used to speak regularly to students, particularly students from the States and from England, who would come over here, you know, on sort of research trips and stuff like that. And you explain to them at the minute, the Brits have 12,000 troops at war between Iraq and Afghanistan. At the height of the conflict here, for such a small area, with a population of only, just over 1 million people, there were 32,000 Brits stationed here. And you had the RUC on top of that and the UDR, and they still couldn't defeat us. They still could not defeat the Republican people. Things have changed now, and I have an 11-year-old son now, and I don't want him ever to have to handle a gun or a bomb. I don't want him to ever have to do that, and I don't believe he's going to have to do it, in spite of some yahoos out there who would try and put a gun in his hand and in the hands of other young people. Because it's just the same as in the blocks. This struggle hasn't finished. It's still going on. I've recently been given this job as an MLA. It's not a job I wanted. I have always found myself, through my whole adult life, in situations I didn't want to be in. You're in the town with 3 bombs in the back of the car, and you're saying, what the fuck am I doing here? And then you end up in the crumb, in the cell with some head case from Strabane, and you're saying, what the in all seriousness, and then, you end up on hunger strike, and, you're saying to yourself, why am I in this situation? I mean, I was 23 years of age. You're in the prime of your life. I should be out there, on a summer's evening, playing hurling, playing football, going out for a drink, chasing women, whatever you do when you're 23. What am I doing here? And you question yourself, and the answer is always the same. You're here or you're there because there's an injustice in our country, and you have decided to do something about it. There's dozens of people here in this room have done the same. And when I get up in Stormont to speak, the way I try to calm my nerves is, this is where the struggle's at the minute. I don't want to be here, but this is where it's at. This is what I have advocated. This is the way forward. This is where we're going to make progress. And that's what it's all about. It's the struggle still going on. Tactics change. We tried the hunger strike. It basically blew the criminalisation policy out of the water. Didn't get us all our demands in the prison. We looked at our tactics, refined them, moved on, got the escape in place, then moved on and got the rest of our demands. And similarly, the military campaign brought us to a certain point. We have to use other tactics to move on, and that's what we're going to do. And it's fitting this year, in the 30th anniversary of Bobby Sands' death, that the election is going to be held on the 5th of May. Now, we're maybe on the cusp of a breakthrough in the 26 counties, and we want to reinforce the position that we have up here as well. And it's incumbent on all of us to get out there and do what we can to make sure we maximise the support for republicanism on this end. One of our difficulties here in West Belfast is that people, it's Canada, it's a shoe, and what have you. It's not. Unless we get people out to vote, there is a possibility of losing one of the assembly seats. And it would be a tragedy if that was to happen on the 5th of May on Bobby Sands' anniversary. So think about that when we leave here tonight. So, but I'm just gonna finish off. it's a source of immense pride to me to have been associated with the hunger strike and with the men who died on hunger strike. And, you know, and I ask you to think about it, you know, from within a relatively short distance of this club where we all are tonight, 3 men, Bobby Sands, Kieran Doherty and Joe McDonald, sacrificed their lives. Imagine that within this relatively small community in West Belfast, that you had 3 men who were prepared to do that. And even overall in the north, you had 10 men prepared to sacrifice their lives for all of us. And you see, the difference between us and all the other political parties on this end is that we care about the people. Bobby Sands said it in his writings. There are no luxuries in the H blocks, but there is true concern for the people of Ireland. And that's the big difference. And, you know, people are going to try and bamboozle us with economics, about IMF bailouts and all of that nonsense. And you don't need a PhD in economics to know what's right and what's wrong, and what's fair and what's unfair. And if you take the 26 counties, the people who benefited least from the Celtic Tiger, the people at the bottom rung of the ladder, the low paid, the people on welfare, they're the ones who proportionately are going to have to pay back the most. And that's not fair, and that's unjust. And we don't need PhDs in economics to know that that's wrong. And we're all here, and we're all involved in this struggle because of the injustice in this country and all of the things that took place. And we have made massive strides, and we're going to continue to make massive strides. And one of the reasons we will continue to do that is because we have in our own memory men who laid down their lives, who sacrificed their lives. And not just the lads on hunger strike, but Jogie was up reading out the Roll of Honour. And that's the other difference between us and all the rest of the parties. We're prepared to take risks. And sometimes in the past, it ended up in people having to give up their lives. And hopefully that doesn't happen in the future. But we'll take risks. Adams will move out of the safest seat in Ireland to go and fight in Louth. Why? Because we want to move the struggle on. Pierce Doherty takes the Free State government to court to get a by-election up in Donegal and wins it. These are all the... No other party would do that. Sinn Féin's the only party that will do it. And we'll continue to keep taking political risks like that, because we know that the risks that people have taken in the past and given their lives for all of us, and they gave their lives because of the injustice that existed in this country. And we're out to end injustice. So think about that, and let's go out on 5th of May and give everybody a message. Go, my